I won't be able to go back to my old life. It was like seeing all of that, who I was, and going, how do I get back there? When really it's not about going back there. It was about building a new life and starting anew. And that's what I was missing the whole time.
Hey friends, welcome to Stories Told Through You, the Flower Letters podcast.
We're Michael and Hannie Clark, and each week we sit down with our amazing community and special guests to share the real, heartfelt stories that connect us.
Grab a cozy seat.
And let's dive into the stories told through you.
Today we're talking to Makenzie Monson. Really fascinating conversation. We know you're going to love it. Her story is really inspirational. You'll notice as you go along, it's just she's so engaging, which is fascinating because she's had a fairly traumatic injury that you would think, wow, it's pretty incredible that she's able to really be so eloquent in how she speaks. And so we felt we just let her talk. And it's a fantastic
and we cried a
story.
little. It was really harrowing, so harrowing.
Yep. So we hope you enjoy the conversation. Well, awesome. Well, welcome, Makenzie. We really appreciate you joining us and for taking some time. We're excited to hear your story. We've met before. We've chatted before. And I was fascinated with your story. I think it's really inspirational. So we're just excited to have you. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so looking forward to it. And yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity, and I think it'll be fun.
Let's start. Maybe just introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Makenzie. I'm 19 years old, and I currently live in Texas. So joining in from Waco, Texas, actually, and I love it here. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, but recently moved here. I am the oldest of 5 siblings, with my mom expecting another, so soon to be 6.
Awesome.
All right.
So I'm looking forward to that. And we have 2 dogs as well. Might as well add it in there because Duke is probably excited to hear that.
Dogs are important. You can't leave them out.
Oh, yeah. I'm 100% into that. Yeah, a dog person. We also have goats and chickens. And I brought on all the animals in our house, just all of them. My parents said they'd never have them, but I changed that, and it was where the red fern grows that brought that to pass. So I definitely love animals, just love music and art and everything. I'm currently living at home and kind of feeling out where to study and with my journey and everything. It's just, I love being at home with my family. I'm a homebody and just old-fashioned in a way, love snail mail and everything to do with that, which is why I love and adore the flower letters, just because it's all me, basically, 100%. So
awesome.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That's a little bit about me. And yeah, obviously my favorite color is pink, so that's another little insight.
That's a great choice. I'm a big fan of pink.
You're like our daughter, Addie. She loves pink, right?
Yep, that's her favorite color right now.
Yeah.
It's a good color, yeah. And just the soft pink flowers are my favorite. But I don't have a favorite flower, unfortunately. I should have really thought that out beforehand, but
there's still time.
Yeah,
It'll
exactly.
change. It changes with the seasons, right? Yeah. I think favorites change with the season. Like my favorite movie is not my favorite movie anymore.
But next spring,
my favorite book is not my favorite book anymore. It just changes. Life changes. Things change. That's okay.
Yeah, especially as you find new things and just can be introduced to all of that. It really makes that change come, and soon enough you just keep changing and becoming and all of that. And it's a really neat part of life, honestly.
McKenzie, I know you're a dancer. Do you still dance, or do you used to dance?
I used to dance a bit, but not currently. I haven't. But yeah, my mom was a professional ballerina, so she kind of has that dance part with her and kind of inspired me with it. So I did ballet for a long time and then kind of paused for a little while. You know, I did dance moves around the kitchen, helping with dinner, doing dishes to kind of keep things fun and all of that. But I didn't quite get back into dance until I was 16, and then started ballroom dance team and kind of interacting with peers my age and all of that. So I still, do little dance moves and everything, but like professional dance with country dance, swing and jive and ballroom waltz, all of that was around, my teen years when I kind of picked that up.
Well, I got a secret, not so secret anymore, but I love Dancing with the Stars.
That's awesome.
Which was a surprise to me because I've been a closet watcher for a while.
Well, she was like, we watched an episode from this last season, and I was like, oh, that was pretty good.
I think I found something I love now. I need to get into this.
It's a little, I'm comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with that.
That's awesome.
Fun. It's
a
fun show.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes. I haven't from this last season, but that's awesome. You should definitely consider joining. Competing and everything. You might just win that. You might just win it and have that special part of life to share and brag. Bragging rights are important when it comes to that.
The overarching problem is the stars part. I'm not a star.
But
you're like, who's this random guy?
It can happen.
Who's this guy?
Like, this is our what would they call it? A token layman member?
Yeah, the guy they should do the Dancing with Random People show.
That would be great.
No, they really should.
Just dancing with normal people, like not stars. They just go on the street like that guy, and you go to them, you want to come on a TV show? The guy's like, yeah,
why not?
Dancing with the ordinary. Let's make it ordinary and star-like with ordinary random people. Yeah. Complete strangers. That would be exciting. I think I'd probably view more of that than the stars. I'd be intrigued.
That would
be very interesting. Yes.
It'd be a train wreck, I think, in some respects.
but it makes good TV, right? A little bit.
Anyway, the reason I asked is I know it was a ballroom, I think a practice you were in where you had an accident. Are you okay if we talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Awesome.
That's been a huge part of my story and everything, especially recently, and still is. And so, yeah, it was ballroom team that brought me into that when I was 16. Kind of going before then, I was at home, homeschooling and finishing off my junior year. I had plans to graduate then, was studying voice and singing, piano performance, and just really involved with music and dancing. Also, I was a writer and I wrote poetry, joined contests, won nationwide all over.
Wow, that's awesome.
With competitions, and also just spent a lot of time doing art classes with one of my friends who lives in Utah. She was a mother of children and everything, and studied art and kind of taught me, and really just love that as a hobby as well. Totally involved with everything. Ran my own business when I was 16 years old. I was a house cleaner. Kind of jumped into it this summer. I turned 16 and got on all these clients, and I loved it. I love everything to do with home and just organizing, house cleaning. Some people hate cleaning, but for me, it depends. As long as it's, something, kind of organizing I enjoy, and cleaning in certain ways. Yeah, there are definitely things that are like, I don't prefer that with cleaning, but it was always kind of a soothing thing for me. And then, basically the oldest in my family started driving, had my license, went on dates a lot, and involved with church activities, everything. I joined that dance team in the fall semester of my junior year. I was really, really excited for that. I hadn't done swing dancing or anything like that, but it was kind of popular around where I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time. And so was there and just loved it. A really oriented faith group and everything, and just kids that were homeschoolers like me could relate to, and private school and all of that. And we were all just kind of figuring it out as we went. So none of us were professionals. And then kind of through that, I was like, okay, I'm making my plans after junior year to maybe do a gap year and work and really grow myself and start singing and pursuing that, maybe pursuing art and education. And I never felt like the college route or anything, but I was like, well, we'll see as it goes, and kind of making plans, because usually as a junior you do when you're in high school, and looking forward to the future and hope for all of that. So I definitely had that excitement coming, and finally it was January, and that time the ballroom team was planning for a competition. And so it was up in Idaho, and we'd all drive on a bus and get there and stay a full weekend just competing with our swing dances that we did, with the music, and just nationwide teams. And so I was looking forward to that. Every rehearsal though, they were always on Thursdays every week. We had a few on Saturdays, but they'd always, since December, they started bringing it up like, okay, everyone, we need to know who's coming, who wants to go, who wants to be involved in that. I was like, oh, I'm totally into it. Every time they'd bring it up though, I just had this weird feeling like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. My family usually drives up to go skiing in Washington. We kind of took a week thing. So I'm like, maybe that'll fall into place. But for some reason, it feels like I'm going to miss out on that. I really want to go. And so I kind of just said, I'm going. And then I remember after Christmas and everything, we had our break. It was our rehearsal back. Got there and we were practicing our dances and they stopped everyone and were like, okay, this is the last week. You need to inform us if you're going to competition, if you're not. And I just was like, I'm going. I'm not going to raise my hand or anything because I feel like I'm going to make it. There's nothing preventing it. But it was just that big premonition again of like, something is going to keep me from it. Maybe I'll get sick or something like that. We went back to dancing and we were doing this lift practice. We were all not very experienced dancers. And when we'd practice lifts, they weren't that detailed and professional lifts, but this one was a lot, more professional that we weren't really used to. And so basically a backflip where two guys would hold their arms out and the girl would be between their arms, and basically they'd cross their arms around the girl and she'd hold right here and then they'd flip her around in a backflip. And I was the most petite one in the dance team and everything, and so everyone was like, oh, let's totally flip Mackenzie all the time. I was like, sure, you can do it. Like, nothing bad will happen. We didn't have mats down, though, at the time, and we never really needed them because usually our lifts were just pretty easy and basic. And so I did the lift a few times and was like, okay, it's a little nerve-wracking, but I did it. And then I tried with another partner from one of my friends, and both the guys did it and put their arms, and something right then fell off, and so they flipped me. I ended up slamming my skull into the back of my skull into the hardwood floors at ballroom team. Right then, I knew something was off. Hit the floor, and the entire room of 60 loud teenagers, socializing, they all went silent. Looked straight at me on the ground and were like, "What just happened? Are you okay?" I kind of sat there for a moment and just in shock, and then got up and was like, I think I'm okay. When I did get up, I was definitely dizzy and I did not feel okay, and I was sure I had a concussion at that point. And there was an instructor who was a nurse, and she pulled me aside and was like, okay, I think we need to check you because you don't look so well. And I was I went on the bench, and the rest of the rehearsal, I was just in shock. My body started shaking, just uncontrollably. I started having getting really clammy on my feet and my hands and not feeling well. And they're like, okay, yeah, you do have a concussion. Your eyes are dilated. My parents ended up coming and bringing me to the hospital just to check and make sure. And we were there, and I was like, I don't have any issues or anything. I feel okay. And as I was walking back to the car that evening down the stairs, they were holding me and kind of helping me find my balance while I was in this moment of shock. And I just had this moment where I couldn't get words out, and that was kind of a forethought of what would happen eventually, because that was the start of basically my life shifting and turning upside down. And for the next few days, it just, all these things followed. I wasn't okay, not normal symptoms of a concussion. I didn't get any scans the first evening, but I ended up having to go back 3 times because what my symptoms were, I just constantly shake. I had the worst migraines. I thought, well, I'm just gonna take a week off or so. I'll be at the next rehearsal. I might not dance, but we're preparing for the competition and all of that. And so I was home like, okay, yay, get a week off of school, and that's kind of exciting, and I can be spoiled and get some extra ice cream and all of that. But what followed just was a complete deterioration of my brain. I ended up seeing a functional neurologist and just kind of explaining what had happened, and ended up, failing many, many tests, just not being able to use my head for a lot of things, reciting numbers, and I couldn't stand for more than 1 minute before fainting at any time. And so it was just like a complete fall of everything little by little. I was still hoping to be there for that competition. Like I had plans to do a voice recital and be there. And my work, my brothers were like, it's okay, Mackenzie, you can recover. We'll take this on and do the job. They were 14 at the time. And so my whole family kind of jumped in to help me with working. And so they'd go, and I was jealous because their vacuum lines were a lot better than mine. I was like, oh no, at this point, I might not be able to go back. But I did try it sometime to get back there. And after a month, I was going weekly to functional neurology, and all these things started happening to me where it was just not normal. I noticed when I went to the doctor one time, I was in complete pain for one night where my back and my stomach just hurt so bad. I could not sleep at all. And so I went there and they were helping me. They're like, we don't really know what's going on. And I just all of a sudden felt this surge of anger and complete irritation. I was like, I want to throw something at you. And I've never felt this before. And I was just facing all these things that I never had before. And people were still kind of showing up, giving me cards for about a month or two after, and, you know, worrying about me, checking in with me. I was really struggling, especially with anxiety as well. I never before faced anxiety. I never faced depression. I didn't really have any mental health issues. I got nerves before lessons or recitals and all of that, and that was normal. But all of a sudden, just one night, I completely felt this horror feeling of someone was in my room and watching me, coming for me. And I just went into a full panic attack. I sat in the corner of my bedroom and just started freaking out and shaking. And my parents came in and were like, what's going on? Like, let's help. And my family was there for me in the beginning. And after about March, we reached a point where we were like, okay, we can get through this. It's going to take a lot longer. You're not going to competition. And I definitely felt like, yeah, that was why I felt like I'm not going, because obviously I couldn't at that point with what I was facing with my symptoms for about an entire weekend in March. It was right after we got home from our ski trip. I was able to my family went out skiing. I was able to stay home by myself, and I watched plenty of Hallmark movies, probably binged way too many, and I was okay with certain things, just couldn't walk around much. I couldn't really do many tasks. I had to keep it really easy. But after that, basically driving home, I felt like my brain was going to explode. Just there was so much pressure in my head. My mom coming home was like, we need to get you to the hospital. There's something wrong. Like, we need to have another scan. Maybe your brain is bleeding again. And at that point, just everything that was following, I was keeping up with my doctor, but he was like, well, I don't really know what's going on. Let's just keep trying these things and these little practices, and they'd help a little bit, but the next week something else would happen, and it would be like, now she's having panic attacks every day. The next week something else would happen, and I'd be in complete debilitating pain for about 3 hours, and the only way to stop that was being in a hot bath. And so there were days at a time I'd have to spend in the bath or in my bedroom just heating up and my body being in excruciating pain. When we drove home from that with my brain like that, the next 2 days, it hadn't happened before, but I was in full out seizures and my body just shaking everywhere. It was so scary for my parents to see me that way. I was conscious and I understood what was going on. I was able to kind of respond to them. And in my head, just being like that after 2 months of everything kind of slowly crashing down, and then being in this point for 72 hours of just shaking and my body being completely uncontrollable, it really brought me to realize something is not right, and this is not just a concussion, and no one had answers. I was just trying to, stay optimistic, and my parents were so worried about me. I mean, obviously any parent would be with watching their kid in that moment just not okay, trying to go, okay, we can handle this. It's another thing. Let's figure out what we can do. And after that, I went to the ER again, got an MRI, and still they had no answers. They were like, just keep doing what you're doing. And that's really when I went, this is not gonna be easy, and this is not just gonna be a few months thing. I really saw my life flash before my eyes at that point, going, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me. And that really scared me. And that's kind of when this fear hit me. And that fear I've dealt with every day since, especially, yeah, just after that, I started experiencing PTSD where I could not sleep in my room alone. My parents had to switch off nights being on my bed and watching me go to sleep and basically sitting with me. And so, that was hard for them because they couldn't be together in the evening. It was always like, okay, you can go to bed, you have to work tomorrow, and watch Mackenzie. My role shifted because after the seizures I went through, I couldn't walk anymore. I couldn't talk at times. I had to use a walker, and my brothers would push me around. My role changed as a family, and my brothers were 15. They were at football practice and everything and kind of living that life. And I kind of became younger and felt like I was the youngest. My 11-year-old brother was basically taking care of me when my mom would go run around, and when she needed help with things, he'd basically be there reading books to me and at my bedside and pushing me around on the walker. Yeah, at night, couldn't be alone. During the day, couldn't be alone. And I was just in complete fear all the time. About every day, I'd go through these different episodes of seizures where my body would just shake. And then after that would be complete writhing pain, just excruciating, where it felt like I was just being just stabbed and my nerves were on fire, just bolting in every way. And that would be all in one of my limbs or in my shoulder. And I'd just be like screaming because it would hurt so bad. And it would last for a time and then it would stop and I'd have a moment to breathe and then it would happen again. And I lived in my bedroom for so long. Every day I'd be going out from the bath, taking a hot bath where I'd really feel soothed back to my bedroom. And then I'd experience like these mental psychosis symptoms that I never wish anyone to experience. It broke me apart faster than anything else because I had these feelings and hallucinations where people were coming after me to take me and to hurt me. And when my parents were there, they wanted everything to do to help me and be there and soothe me. But everything that used to soothe me in months before, just they couldn't do anything anymore because even being touched, that would freak me out. And being rubbed or anything or my hair stroked, I'd be in the corner screaming and not being able to respond to them, to their words, and them whispering in my ear that would completely scare me. And it didn't feel like them. I felt like I was in this prison and being tortured every day in my bedroom and wherever in the house. And that was something that was really, really hard for my brothers because they saw me, losing that ability to be the leader, and they saw me and my joy just it going away completely. And for a long time there, they just, especially my 11-year-old brother, he struggled with so much, and all of a sudden there was this grief and loss we'd never experienced before. We've learned that it really is a true loss and real grief, and it's called ambiguous loss, where you lose someone but they're still there. And so it's this kind of weird part of grief there, and it's not like losing them and parting with them. It's like they lost who I was and the person I was, and I was just this completely different person. My personality changed. Every day I just live in this anxiety. I just didn't know what was wrong with me. No one had answers. We went to doctors and we went to clinics and therapists, and there was just no answer of it. It was completely just keep doing what you're doing, or, you know, it'll maybe recover, something like that. And at that point, I lost hope of my future, and I lost excitement and joy in my life. I had nothing to look forward to every day, because all I had the next day was, I'm just going to be in pain. Like, I'm going to experience these PTSD episodes. I'm going to be seizures and having pain, and I couldn't sleep, I couldn't go to bed, and it just was this complete fallout of my whole life. I lost people. People in the beginning would come and, be there, but there's a point where each person, they have their life and they have to get back to it, and you can, keep being there for them, but it just kind of all fell away. And there was a time for that attention and help, but as well, in that time, I could not. There were a lot of people visiting for a while, and then with this fear I started developing, I I lost ability to have people over. I couldn't handle it with just sensory, and I was overstimulated. And so my friends I thought were friends in the beginning didn't come anymore, and people, it really showed that there's a lot in life in just an instant you'll just lose. And I was at that point in 2023, basically that whole year, where I lost friends, and I lost that whole sense of myself. I lost my place in my family, and seeing my family grieve through that and have that loss every day, not knowing what was wrong with me. And they did all the research they could, and they tried to be there, but it was just this complete shatter of my world. And it had come to this darkness where we were all struggling. It wasn't just me, it was my family, and I had lost, ability to even eat at times. During that year, there were 3 days where my mom literally thought she was gonna lose me, and she'd come in my room during the day at times when I was resting and feeling okay. She's like, you can't die yet, Mackenzie. You can't do that. Like, you have a life left to live. Are you gonna go? And I was like, I won't leave, Mom. Like, I won't do it. I don't know, but I'm okay. I wanted to be that strength, but at the same time, it felt like my whole sense of confidence and courage was lost. And at that point, like, I dove into a depression that I just could not really overcome. At that point, I was so sad and broken every day facing what I was. And there was a point there, just in that feeling of, like, I might not have life anymore, and my parents think I might just leave one day. I started wishing that I would die, because it would be easier than going through what I was going through with my seizures and with my fear, with my PTSD and everything I was facing, with my pains and my fatigue and just everything. Not being able to walk. Like, I'm 16, I ran my own business. Why can't I walk to the bathroom? Like, I went on dates and I drove a car. Why do I need help in the bath, like being washed? And my mom had to dress me at times, and it was so hard. And because of what I was going through, I was so hurt that, like, my brain would just have these moments of shouting and yelling at the people I loved most, and it would be another episode of anger and in just fear and trying to protect myself when I felt like everything was falling away. And every evening I'd just be in my bed sobbing, like, with my parents there, feeling like, I'm so sorry. I ruined our life. I ruined everything. It felt 100% like it was my fault. And every day I felt so guilty for it, for, not being able to think differently. When you're seeing those things and feeling that way, you wonder, is that me making those up? Am I choosing this? And I was questioning everything because no one had answers. And it was absolute horror every day living in that just broke me so much. And soon enough, it reached a whole year, and it reached a year and a half. And I was just in this place of trauma and loss and torture. And the people I loved most, I even isolated from them because I didn't want them to see me. In Portland, Oregon, we grew up around my extended family, my grandparents and my cousins, and our family's like big and wide, and we all had Sunday dinners every month. And just when my injury happened, they started showing up and coming for me, but I got to this point in that fear and PTSD and depression and feeling like, what am I? What have I turned into? I've become this monster of myself. I said, I can't do this anymore. I have complete fear with them. And I basically said, I need some time to heal and figure this out. I don't want them to see me like this. It was basically like a few months after my injury where I said, we can keep in touch on text or snail mail, but that's really it. I can't do this. It brings fear, and I just need my own space. And that was something I felt guilty for, because my grandparents, who were always there and loved me and just wanted to support me, I felt like I was shutting them out, but at the same time I didn't want to. Again, it was like, is it my mind? Is it me? What's going on? Why am I choosing this? Like, why is this happening to me? Why, like, every week I'd have dinners with them and I'd be there for them. I cleaned their homes and I did voice lessons and I did crochet lessons with my grandma and all of this, and I lost the ability to feel safe in any situation. There was no place where I felt at peace. I was just racked in this torment every single day by my brain. It tortured me in every way, and I lost all grip on that. Around that time in 2024 was when my mom was searching for any piece of hope, and my whole family was just trying to hold on, and it was hard, and it broke all of us. And when my mom was searching, we came across the flower letters. It just popped up on Facebook, and she clicked on it and read the story of everything and was like, this is McKenzie, like, the flowers. And she loves flowers and she adores flowers and she loves romance and she loves being involved in stories and everything. She's always loved that, and I always did. She loves, art and crafting, and most of all, I love snail mail. And that was something so sweet during that time. Was right outside my window was the mailbox. And so I had a few pen pals before who'd write me, and they'd send these little letters in the mail, and I'd have my brother go get the mail every day, like, oh, look for something addressed to me. And he'd go out and I'd see him on my bed. I'd see him go run and get the mail. And if he got something, he'd like do thumbs up or he'd wave it to me. And then he'd run all the way back upstairs for me and give me something. When there wasn't something there, it was like, oh, darn. But ever since the beginning, like, it was always kind of one thing I looked forward to was, what if there's something addressed to me in the mail? And when my mom found that, every 2 weeks there's a letter that comes in the mail, and it's this story in World War II of history and romance and this hopeful gem. One day she came up to me and was like, Mackenzie, there's something, like a surprise I have for you. And that went on for like a few weeks. She kept mentioning this surprise. There was one day where we were sitting outside during the summer, and I was talking to her. I'm like, Mom, I don't feel alive anymore. I feel like I'm living in this haze. I don't want to live anymore. I need you to, like, hide the pills in the house and everything. Like, I'm worried I'm going to do something. I don't feel safe around myself because I can't feel my body. Like, I cannot feel my body. I don't feel like me. I'm not Mackenzie anymore. Like, I should just completely abandon that name because that's not who I want to be. And I feel like everything's my fault. And at that moment, my dad had gotten home from work, pulled up and had the mail, and I was just so distraught. I went over and I looked through the stash of papers and envelopes, and I saw one envelope that just had flowers on it, and it said Miss Makenzie Monson on the front. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is this is something special. And I opened it, and it was a story. It was the Audrey Rose letter. And I opened the welcome and I read it, and it was something that washed away kind of that distress that I was feeling. And it was this sweet, sweet story with, a bookmark and everything and a little postcard. And it said, you're going to receive 24 letters for the next 12 months. And I thought, I can look forward to this. Like, this is so fun. I went upstairs, and in the evening my brothers would sit by my bed and either read to me, and one of my brothers was like, okay, I want to get into this story. So he read the letter, and in 2 weeks there was another letter that showed up in the mailbox, and I was like, it's coming this week. It's coming this week. Go check the mail. And he'd run upstairs to my bedroom. Sometimes when he'd get the mail, I'd be in my panic attack and everything, and there would be the mail on the floor on my bedroom. When they had come in and saw me like that, they usually went to their own place because no one could handle me looking like that in my panic attack and psychosis attacks. And so I pick it up, and feeling so distressed, I'd open it, and again it was like, oh my goodness, Charlie Burke, he's so romantic and everything. And it was this hope of like, okay, there's this story, and it's everything I love, and there's this goodness that kind of opened up in the complete shatter of darkness every day that I was experiencing. And I had it by my bed, and each letter would come. And around that time, that's when we'd found a clinic in Portland, Oregon, where I spent an entire week doing a rehab there. The doctors there, I went not wanting to go. I was like, I can't see anyone. I'm scared. Even driving on the freeway just put me in an attack of anxiety. But I went and was like, I'm gonna do this. Like, I have to try. I want to get better. And I was crumbling. And so I was like, this is my only hope. I have to persist with that. And so I went for a whole week, and we did therapies and was there every day. And every part of it was just so, so healing for me. And I had this doctor who just brought so much light, and he was friendly and sweet. And I was like, not everyone is, scary. Like, I can do this and figure this out. That really brought me back to being able to walk again, being able to talk, being able to function and balance more. When I'd experienced vertigo and everything, it helped me and brought me to this milestone where I came home and was in the backyard, like feeling okay again, and feeling like, okay, I have a head start after, wanting to end my life and wanting to die, and everyone seeing me in this place of depression, like just all day in pain and hurt and terror. Basically, it left me at a point in feeling like there's a glimpse of light here, in the same way that the flower letters had brought for a time. And so after that, I was able to kind of feel a little bit better about myself. But it wasn't the end there, and I continued facing lots of things. The only thing that was still so hard, and was one of the hardest things I experienced that still wasn't getting better, was my PTSD and my anxiety and my depression. It was getting better, but it still wasn't to the point we wanted. And we tried to, do counseling and all of that, and all these different lists of therapies, but it wasn't really finding hope in that realm of what I was going through. And so with that, basically in Oregon, like, all I'd really go to was my therapies, and I wouldn't see my family. I wouldn't see many friends. My world was so isolated, and I was still trying to find, who am I? Where can I feel myself again? And the one thing I also loved holding to at that moment was writing. And I'd before, like, been in competitions and all of that, and the flower letters were inspiring this hope of storytelling again. And I sat down one evening where I couldn't eat dinner. I couldn't even hold my fork. Like my hand just wouldn't do it. My family was there sitting around the table, and I was like, I can't be with them. Like, this is not fair. I went upstairs. I was like, I need to write again. I was in this moment of just exhaustion where I couldn't really word again. I couldn't really talk. And my mom gave me the computer and set it down and was like, okay, you can write. And in 10 minutes, I basically had this download of a poem that I wrote. And I ended up posting it on my blog at the time, where people were kind of following my story. And I had done that before my injury, and so I wasn't posting as often, but I sent it, and it really brought me so much hope, like just with knowing that, there's going to be brighter days ahead, and being able to have strength in that and surety, even though everything felt like it wasn't okay at all. Just every morning I'm like, I'm not okay. When people ask you, "Oh, how's your day going and everything? How are you feeling?" It's always like, "Oh, I'm doing great," or, "Oh, I'm doing okay." And it's kind of out of habit. And then when I went through my injury, everyone's like, "Oh, how are you doing?" I'm like, I hate that question because I'm not okay. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not okay. And I was like, can I just spill the beans and tell you that life sucks right now, because it really does suck. It's unfair. This isn't the life I want. I can't sing anymore. I can't, I can only write once in a while. Life kind of, I hate it. So that's that's the truth. And so I just had to keep going, though. That was hard because I didn't want to for a long time. But at that point, you have to go, okay, it's either I'm going to give up, and I want to give up, but I have to keep going. And there were a lot of times where I did, after, my attacks or everything, I just scream out, like, I'm done. Like, I give up. I don't care what's happening. Like, I'm not going to eat anymore. I'm fine with starving myself because that's better than what I'm going through. I just give up. And my mom would come in often, and she was just in so much pain because we'd always been best friends and everything, just sharing everything. And she lost that best friend, and that loss was so hard. And yet she was still like at my bed right there. She's like, "Mackenzie, I had a little whiteboard where I'd write things when I couldn't speak sometimes. She's like, "Mackenzie, you just, like, this is for a little while, but you're going to get better. Like, remember the rehab you had, like how far you're going. You may have setbacks, you may have relapses, but just you have to just keep going. Like, we're all in this. You can't give up." And she'd draw little pictures of what I used to dream about, of being a wife and a mom, and being married. And she's like, "Look at your wedding dress." And her drawings were like terrible little stick figures. But at that point, it's like, okay, Mom, you're not the artist, but it brought so much hope. And she's like, I mean, read these stories, and holding up the flower letters, and like, I got these for you. You can have hope with them. And she would draw like 12 children or something. She's like, you're going to have such a big family and have the dream and little animals and everything. And she's like, you just have to keep going. And so I put the whiteboard on my window. At the same time, there were these neighbors that were in our church. I wasn't able to go to church, obviously. So every Thursday, they'd come and they'd bring a bouquet on the door. And it lasted for 2 full years, where every Thursday they'd go get a bouquet at the local farmer's market. And there were these 3 little girls, aged like 11, 8, and 3. And they'd come to the door, and they'd be like, "Hi, we're here for Mackenzie, and we hope she's doing good. Like, here's your bouquet." And
So
every
sweet.
week I took these little snapshots of all these pictures of their letters and of their flowers, and they sent little cards too. And every Thursday they'd be there. It doesn't matter if it was like 11 o'clock, because they had, swim lessons to go to, and they'd come up in their swimsuits and be like, "We're here for Mackenzie." And they came up a lot of times, and my mom would be sobbing, going like, "Why is my daughter gone?" And they'd knock on the door, and it's like, "The birds are here." And she'd go to the door and just cry, and she's like, "You guys are angels. You guys are angels." And they're like, we're just so happy. Like, we love you guys and you can do it. And that was a glimpse of hope through everything every week. Because Thursdays sometimes were the worst days, and I just was in pain, like, living that survival. I every single day, and in the worst moments, there would be that little doorbell ring, and it's like the birds are here and their little flowers, and it was so sweet around that time as well, like with their flowers, with the flower letters, like even in the midst of darkness and complete hell of everything, it was just these tiny little sparkles coming down, like God sending little stars from the sky to just be there to send a glimmer of hope, because without those little things, I don't know how I would have kept going, because just putting my nose and my face in those flowers and just smelling them, it was like I can smell the peonies and the carnations and the daisies, and them being on my window, and some would last a long time and others wouldn't as long, but I held on to those flowers, and the little cards they gave me, and the stickers and everything. It was that same time when I had a dream, and the dream basically was me struggling and suffering, and walking through our house, and I noticed all of a sudden beside me was this dog. It was just kind of this big scruffy dog, and I just was like, well, this dog is here, and that's random in this dream. And another night the same thing happened. Like, I was in a dream, and right next to me was this scruffy dog. And so I had read at that point, was in support groups for people with brain injuries and, post concussion syndrome, all of that. And there was one story of a guy who had found a service dog and everything, and that kind of just hit me in the head in a very gentle way, of course, but it kind of sparked me, and I kept thinking about it and researched it, and was like, this is something. Like, why does this keep returning in a dream? Why does this keep coming back to me? I ended up telling my mom and my dad, and they're like, this could be something really good. She could have a service dog to help her go around, like when she has relapses and struggles, the dog can be there doing pressure therapy and can be with her wherever she goes to feel protected when she's scared of people and in new places and new hospitals, and like we can actually probably be together again at night, because still every night, and when I was 17, it was still them in my room sleeping with me every night, me not being able to go to sleep. And sometimes when they try to leave to be together at night, I'd wake up and have a nightmare and just go in complete panic. And they're like, we just have to keep being here. And we researched it. And the thing is, service dogs are so pricey. They just cost a lot, and there's a big wait list. And we researched and went through things, and it was like, there's probably not going to be a chance for that. And I was like, I swear I felt something, and that was hope for a while. And then all of a sudden it was like that hope crushed and fell right down. And it was like I got really upset, and I was like, why did I have that? And I was hoping through that, and it's like, we can't do that because we have medical bills and everything. We can't get a dog, and I need the dog now. And I was just like in an anger prayer, basically, like, why have these dreams and it's not gonna come to pass. It ended up the next day my mom came into my room, and I was reading my flower letter, of course. I always reread them all the time and everything, and she's like, Mackenzie, and she was starting to cry, and she said, one of our friends, like Miles, he's gonna do a hike-a-thon, and he wants to raise money, and he says it's been on his mind for a while, and he feels like he needs to do it this summer. And she said he wants to raise like $30,000 to $50,000, like exactly the price of a service dog. And she was telling me it's a complete miracle. Like, you look at this sign of that you are seen and you are known, and people do know you even in isolation. Like, they they were remembering with those flowers that the birds brought, and this hike-a-thon that happened. And it was the summer when he did the hike-a-thon, and that fall I ended up finding my service dog Caspian, and he's a big black scruffy dog, exactly like my dream, and he's a Bernedoodle, so he's just has that furry hair, and it was such a blessing in my life where from day one, like that was the first day after a year and a half to 2 years when my parents, they're like, okay, good night, Mackenzie. And he was on my bed, and they were able to, leave me there for the night, and I was okay, and I had him to hold on to, and we started training him and did all of that. And having him there, I started taking little steps to going back to church, and I started taking little steps to, go one place I wasn't okay with before. I was able to start seeing like my uncle again, and just taking small little baby steps. That's what kind of helped me have hope with things. Just little steps each day. And some days, you're going to take 2 steps forward, and then another, it's going to feel like 20 steps back.
Yeah.
But it's like, just keep going, just keep going. I had a friend who also had a brain injury, and every day we'd text each other and we'd keep in touch, and we'd encourage each other through every part of it. And we call each other we're earth angels and each other's earth angels. And there were friends that, were acquaintances before my injury that came and were angels in my injury and in my recovery of everything. And, friends I didn't know before that all of a sudden I met, and it was like this obvious connection in every way that we had together. When I found Caspian, we started realizing that I just, I kind of hit this plateau. I was making steps with him, but my healing just wasn't going further at 2 years. My grandparents ended up, my mom's parents ended up flying out to Texas because my uncle and aunt live here, and they're like, we can't see Mackenzie anymore. We feel kind of like things aren't there. We're thinking of moving closer to other family, and because I have a lot of extended family here in Texas, and they ended up finding a ranch and walking in this farmhouse in last fall of 2024, so about a year ago. And they were walking through the farmhouse, and all of a sudden they had this download feeling of, this is for Mackenzie and her family. Like, she's at this 2-year mark and coming on her 2-year anniversary of her accident and everything, and she can come here and heal. And they came home, and my grandma took my mom out to the car because I couldn't see my grandparents. I couldn't talk to them. I just lived in so much fear with that. There was always like, okay, you can go out. And no one could knock on the door or I'd freak out. It was just, a life of living in complete fear. And they're like, you can leave and go to Texas, live in our place. My mom's like, what in the world? Why would we do that? And then she thought about it and went, wait, this actually might be exactly what we need, because all of us were still so shattered, even when there were little bits of improvement. It was like I'd find myself a little bit again, and then I'd crash, something would happen, and for another 3 months I wouldn't be able to walk or talk, and it was doing that again and using my walker, and just that strife of, I can't keep up with myself. I'm so behind. I don't feel like I'm meant to get better. Maybe this is just my life. Maybe I'm broken. And I felt completely broken in every way. And so when my mom came in and said that's a possibility, I was like, I have no idea how that's going to work. I can't even drive on the freeway half the time. But, let's see and sit on this and everything. And in January, we left behind our house, and we left behind the memories there of me being a complete happy 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old. And then, all the memories there, and all of us as a family and doing our trips, and, being home and doing family movie night and game night and bonfire parties, and me planning all these dates at the house. We left that behind, and we left behind the the grief we'd been through, the agonizing memories of me being in my room in the corner just screaming for hours and losing my entire control of my body, me losing every part of my life. We left those memories with that house, and the memories in that house of just all of us being so grief stricken, of just going through all of it, the stages of anger and of depression and denial and every part of that loss with me. It was like we're going to start a new beginning in Waco and see where things lead. And so in January we left Waco and we drove all the way. It was about like 30 hours I think to Texas, and we brought a little trailer, packed as much as we could in it, and took a few day trips to Waco. And when we got here on the drive, it was like all of a sudden I started feeling this lift of, there's a new start and I can start again, rather than being held back by all the spider webs of what my life once was, going, I just can't go back. I won't be able to go back to my old life. And being in Portland, it was like seeing all of that, who I was, and going, how do I get back there? When really it's not about going back there. It was about building a new life and starting anew. And that's what I was missing the whole time was, it's taking steps forward. I'm not going to be the same girl I was before. That's not the purpose of the suffering and everything. The purpose is finding truth in the beauty of becoming and blooming and blossoming, and really, seeing a story come to pass. You're not going to go back to old letters, because you're not getting anywhere with that. You have to keep going. And I mean, flowers, they don't start big and close up. They start blooming and they start opening up, and the petals start really showing beauty. And when I got to Waco, I had dreams again, and I brought my service dog, and he'd been trained at that point, and I brought him, and we went to all these little farms and we picked up some goats, because I'd had dreams about goats. And I also had dreams about pigs, but my parents were like, we are not doing pigs, so don't think you're gonna get pigs. I'm like, okay, we'll start with little goats. And something I didn't have before was a feeling of purpose. I was like, my purpose is gone. All my purpose is just sitting here doing nothing, like watching my life, my life isn't there. I'm feeling like a nobody. I'm a nothing, basically. So I have no purpose. My gifts, I don't feel creative. I don't feel inspired, because what's there to be inspired for when everything's broken? To the day we left, there were the flower letters coming in. There were the birds who left flowers for us, and they were like, we're gonna miss you so much, and we wish we could send you flowers, but we're looking forward to this new glimpse of hope. And finally in Waco, I started feeling purpose with going out every morning and bottle feeding our baby Nigerian dwarf goats, and just holding them and being like, oh my goodness, there's this, I love animals. And being in a new home where I didn't know anybody, it was like I can start, and they don't know my past, and they don't have those expectations, or where I felt like the expectations were there. It's like they just want to know me and accept me, and I'm just going to be myself and complete this new beginning of exactly who I want to be, even though I'm going through this tragedy still. Even though I'm still facing relapses and I'm still going backwards, what it feels like, I'm going to keep pushing forward. That was the beauty of coming to Waco. And I started, taking steps to church, just sitting inside for a little bit. And then I come out before I'd feel anxiety. And then soon I was in there for a full hour of our church service. And then even, I kept up with my therapies like acupuncture and my favorite counselor, and I kept up with some friends that I'd bloomed here, and I met people that felt like home, and the community felt like home and quiet, and we lived in the country with a beautiful view on 10 acres of just this comforting sunset, where it was like, that is beautiful. Like, there's a closing that's beautiful after a beginning of a wonderful day. Every day was like that hope of purpose. I even got bunnies and started breeding them as well, and I just loved the bunnies so much, and I was like, I want to start sharing hope with people, and I'm going to get into doing a little bunny business and everything. And so I bred some of my bunnies, and I want these bunnies to be therapy rabbits for people. And so I'd sell them and I'd raise them to be able to go to loving homes where people who do feel loss and grief could find that hope. And so I kept getting more bunnies, and my little sister loved the bunnies. She's almost 2, and she'd squeeze them too hard sometimes, but it was fun to be on the land with her, and she was growing up in that, and I was like, this is beautiful. And my parents would tell me, like, if your injury didn't happen, like, we wouldn't be here. Like, look at the beauty of this place and everything. And it was basically me trying to write an ending to my story. Obviously it wasn't over, but a continued part of the story to be able to come out of hurt and brokenness and loss and hate over myself, where I felt just completely lost in every way. It was this hope of being able to become again and bloom again. On my 19th birthday this past summer, it set a mark of exponential healing where every day has just been progress. And we ended up selling our home in Portland, Oregon, and feeling like, we need to be in Waco. At the time, my dad was still working in Portland, Oregon. And so he was doing the commute, flying down for a week and a half, and then flying back to us, staying for a few days, and then flying back. And that was a big sacrifice on his part. The thing is, with everything, like, to be able to love and give your all, that's sacrifice. And showing that love, being there, it's complete sacrifice. And that's what I saw with my family, was them sacrificing so much. And often sacrifice wasn't their choice. They sacrificed their joy and complete bliss of life, and some things we did as a family because they just, wanted to help me and be there for me. And same with friends, like the sacrifice of choosing to keep coming and choosing to be there and stay there and let me know, like, we love you, Mackenzie, and you got this. And there was just a beauty in that as well, where people would just, bring forth little glimpses of hope again and again and again. Since my birthday, like, I've started driving again and practicing when I'm able, and I've started opening myself to dating again and hoping for that future and being able to feel like myself again. And I've continued, like, going from the Audrey Rose collection, just closing that story was such a beautiful gift. And then I opened up to the Adelaide Magnolia letters, and I thrive so much in those. And then, coming here, like, there's still a story being written every day for me and for each one of my family members. And we finally have felt moments where, like, Mackenzie, look, you're healing. We're all as a family together. Because in my injury, a lot of experiences for us, we were broken apart with, someone needs to always be home with Mackenzie, and as a family, like, go here, and switching off with that. It was like we never felt like a family and complete for 2.5 full years. And finally we're doing things again, going to little homesteads and going to downtown Waco, and I'm able to go in stores, and I took steps with that for a long time, just trying to go in. And for a little while I could not go in Target because it was just so much. I couldn't go in, Michael's, the craft store that I love so much, and my favorite places and restaurants. But we'd be like, let's start here. Let's go in this restaurant no one knows about, and we'll give them business anyway. So it's a blessing in disguise, and it can be a quiet place for you. And I found a lot of tools that would help me. Anxiety balls, little earphones to help when it was too loud for me. And basically just found tools to be able to help me when I didn't feel like I could do it by myself. And the truth is, I couldn't do it by myself. And through everything, like, to keep going and keep dating and keep growing my talents, and I'm able to sing again and write again and open up again and share a piece of my story in every way. And that's because of so many people, and it's because of, like, God and everything he brought, and that knowledge of hope in the darkest moments. And there's still hard times. Recovery for brain injury, it's not like it's March 1st of 2026. You're going to wake up and be completely healed and back to normal and everything. The thing that broke me a lot was I'm not normal, and being able to realize now that it's not about being normal. Like, none of us are normal. We're not the same person. We're all just trying to keep going and keep finding hope and keep becoming. And it's normal to embrace being different and being beautiful and having all these different shapes of personality and everything. And I'm slowly like diving into finding pieces and plucking little pieces of myself again that reinvent exactly my dreams. And I'm still Mackenzie, and I still have pieces of who I was before, but so much has changed, and I'm embracing who I am right now and who I can become from that. And it's a beautiful, graceful thing every day to wake up and go, I'm Mackenzie and I'm beautiful, and I may not feel 100% today. I may have seizures for an hour after doing this activity. I still may face petrifying anxiety at points, but I've made progress so far. I'm able to go places, and I can create the life that I hope for and that I want. And because of hope, there's every reason to keep going every single day. Because of hope, there's every reason to keep becoming and keep rewriting the story that began a long time ago. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is still recovering, living in our homestead with 10 acres, and embracing my healing haven in my room, and applying for a part-time job to be able to work here soon and just find comfort with being able to be independent again in the way of knowing who I am, and reverencing everything I've been through, because it was so hard, and sometimes it still is so hard with an endless amount of so's in there. But it's been a journey that's still going. And honestly, a lot of people ask you, would you go through it again? Would you do it again? And before, I was like, I can't answer that, because no, I don't want to go through this again. It's the worst ever, and I don't want anyone to go through that. But now I'm like, yeah, honestly, maybe I would go through it again. And there's still days where I'm like, I don't know, and I don't know. I don't know. But now it's just a matter of keep going and to keep progressing in every way.
Mackenzie, I wish I could just reach through the screen and just give you a big hug. I feel like your story is just like it's going to help so many people. I feel like it probably already has. I feel with my own experiences going through, pretty difficult things as well. Not like that. That was harrowing. But like, God gives them to us for a reason, and there's always somebody ahead that benefits exponentially from our struggles but most importantly, our perseverance through those struggles. Because, you look back and you're like, I'm not the old Mackenzie anymore, but there is definitely a blooming and a blossoming of you becoming so much more than you could have ever imagined, and so much of it, I believe you're going to find for sure, is that this experience is that catalyst to that really becoming. And wow, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. That is just amazing. Sorry, Mike had to leave to go pick up our daughter, so he didn't just walk out, but we're close to her school time. But thank you so much for sharing multiple times, just like getting so emotional listening to you talk, and just seeing how my own struggles have gone forward, and helped somebody in their struggles, and how you're going to go forward and help so many people. And it's just, that's what life is. It's just this snowball effect of us all doing, like you said, doing the very best we can with what we've been given, and then looking for ways to have that help other people. And I'm just excited to see what you end up doing because of all this. It's created a powerhouse of a young lady that's sitting right here before us, and I'm just excited to see how your full recovery, whatever that looks like, what you're going to be able to do because of everything you've been through. Thank you for sharing, and I can't wait for our listeners to hear, and whoever's going to hear and be able to get through whatever they're going through because of your example. And It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so true. The thought that comes is like something I love quotes so much and held to them. And I have on my phone, I have like a whole list of all my favorite quotes that have held me through my injury. And one of them is like, your story and your struggle right now is going to be somebody else's survival guide. And
Yes.
I was like, okay, we're gonna make it and get to a point, and some things and places and where we reach it, some come soon, some victories come late. It's just kind of hoping that, yeah, there's gonna be hope from it, and it is gonna bring forth miracles to be able to help other people. And that's what I love so much. Is I've always loved being able to help other people and serve. And, through my time, it was like I couldn't even help myself. And I do hope, to continue sharing my story and everything. And this is actually like the first time I've shared it. Yeah, everything. Usually it's little snippets and such, but I so appreciate the opportunity, and I hope someone will find hope from it. And I'm so grateful for the flower letters and everything that's brought to me, and I continue to read them and everything and just embrace them every day, and the stories that just, bring me joy of being able to be a main character in my event, as Audrey Rose is, and Nora Avon and all of that, Lily, and just, I mean, all of the wonderful characters you've created have inspired me so much.
Thank you for sharing this part of this side of the writing the stories. Hearing how they're received is like all of the joy in doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's hearing somebody love them back. You're like, okay, everything was worth it. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
On that note, for sure. But I think also on that note, like looking and hearing your whole experience, I know at times, and probably most of the time, it felt like you were not doing things for other people. But I think that so much of your being able, like you being the recipient of so much service, was doing so much for so many people, giving them the opportunity to sacrifice, to show up. Those sweet girls showing up with those flowers. I mean, that's such a beautiful experience and testimony to them of like serving somebody and seeing them through, and then being part of watching your healing process and all that, and then, hearing how much it meant to you is going to teach them that these little things, they really do add up, and they really do make such a huge difference. It actually is, when you're in those really dark places, it is the littlest things, like you said, the little sparkles that bring that next step, that next bit of hope to keep you going just a little bit further. And so I hope that you get to the point to where you see that what you've been through and the people around you have been blessed by the experience. Even though so much of the time you're like, what is going on? And feeling like I'm hurting the people around me, but really, like, we're here to struggle together. We're here to lift each other together. And how can we lift when somebody's not struggling? Do you know what I mean? And so I think the burden, the hard part for you is being the kind of person that wants to help everyone around you, and then you're the one that needs to be helped. Do you know what I mean? So I understand that, but I think you've blessed far more people than you can probably will ever know, and will continue to. So thank you so much for being willing to share your story with us, and we wish you all the best in your recovery. Like, I am confident you're going to be doing some incredible things from here on out. So it's been a real
so
privilege
much.
To hear your story, to get to know you. Yeah, so
it's been such a blessing to share and everything, and be a little part and meet you as well.
You too.
Like, it's like the famous, you are a star, like Hannie Clark.
I don't know about that, but that's very sweet. Thank you for listening to Stories Told Through You, the Flower Letters podcast.
Got a true story you'd like to share? Email us at podcast@theflowerletters.com.
If you're new here, welcome. To learn more about us, head over to theflowerletters.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and help us spread these inspiring true stories. Until next time.